Hello, everyone, and very good morning, very good afternoon, and very good evening to all of you. And today is the first day of the Rajab. Holy months are starting already, and may Allah give barakah of our program for the sake of this first day of the Rajab, the holy months, which we are already, how to say, surround with the Rahmah, inshallah, what we believe. Today we have two distinguished guests from Jordan. We will be speaking about the Jordan startup ecosystem. We will hear from the which I say that founding stones, like they are the one who made the Jordan ecosystem into a success. We will hear all about the Jordan startup ecosystem, from training to the investment, from government incentives and government facilitation to the private sector's involvement, all the details of the Jordan startup ecosystem, inshallah. I would like to start with just give a brief explanation of Icyf and Ybh, a very short brief. Icyf is the International Cooperation Youth Forum, which is the youth section of the OIC, Cooperation of Islamic Countries. We are established with the signature of 56 states, and we are having a membership in 45 OIC states with around more than 65 members. If we calculate all the OIC geography youth population as well as the non-OIC geographies Muslim youth population, we are mandated to serve more than 400 million youth, Muslim youth. As Ybh, we are responsible for the economic empowerment of the Icyf, the economic empowerment of the youth, which Icyf covered. Icyf also has cultural, economic, and social empowerment of the youth with their programs and projects. What we do as Young Business Hub, this is an umbrella initiative of the Icyf, which responsible for the all economic activities. What we do as a Young Business Hub, we have an incubation center which we have started in Istanbul, World Trade Center. Recently, we are dealing with the startups, as well as we are having investment summits for those startups to show themselves to the world. We have numerous investment summits in Malaysia, in Bahrain, in Turkey, Istanbul, and in Azerbaijan recently. And we have some other startup investment summit in the queue, which we will be, inshallah, conducting within coming days, coming months. Within 2022, we are planning to have 3 to 4 investment summits, startup investment summit, for youth to have a stage for themselves. This is the brief explanation of Icyf and brief explanation of the Ybh for the audience. And I have two distinguished guests, as I mentioned. Mr. Nidal Bitar, he is the CEO of the Information and Communication Technology Association of Jordan. He is very dynamic, innovative, highly skilled, competent professionals with more than 24 years of experience. And he is into a workplace performance consulting, information technology, including ERP, e-business, creative production, product management, project management, new media service. He has covered all the verticals which one needs in the startup disruptive, what they say, ecosystem. On the other hand, we have Mr. Tamal Al-Salah, Managing Director of the Beyond Capital. He's the Managing Director of the Beyond Capital. Before he joined the Beyond Capital, he has several positions in the entrepreneurial and SME support in Jordan. He has also been in the EBRD, in the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. He has managed more than 70 SME projects around Jordan. we have this highly skilled and highly experienced individual expert who will give us the insight and input and experience which they have in their journey up to today. I don't want to take much of your time, and I would like to give floor to Mr. Nidal first to have his wordings. The format of the meeting will be just like a friendly talk, just to have to spread the knowledge of what you have in hand for a startup to benefit from. Nidal, Mr. Nidal, floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Sami, and really an honor and pleasure to be with you today. And I can see participants from all over the world. So ahlan wa sahlan, and I hope we will be able to tell you more about Jordan ecosystem and what's happening here. I will start with saying that the Jordanian startups ecosystem is relatively new. So it's not too, I mean, it's still young, maybe less than 20 years. But it's a very dynamic, very vibrant ecosystem. The ecosystem, you can look at it from different perspectives. The legal framework and what's in it for the startups and for the companies who have innovative ideas and how they can grow. And also who are the startups and where they are, which verticals they are focusing on. So this area will be very important for the audience to learn more. And we will be also happy to receive any questions from your good self or from the audience. I will leave it here for now. Maybe I'd like to have Tamer also comment on that. So I don't want to take long talk and hijack the whole thing, but I have a lot to say, so bear with us and we have some time to explain more details.
Thank you, Mr. Tal. Mr. Tamer, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Sami, and thank you everyone for arranging this. And thanks, Nidal, for giving me the floor, which you might regret. I talk a lot, so please, guys, stop me if I do so. As Sami gracefully introduced me, and I'm Tamer Salah, and I manage Beyond Capital. Beyond Capital is an ecosystem enabler that was established to cover the early stage life cycle of startups by supporting startups, angel investor community, and fund management community to support that kind of sector. I hope that we have been contributing to the Jordanian ecosystem, but this is really, I mean, the Jordanian ecosystem has developed in the past 10 years heavily. We've been pioneering in the startup and the entrepreneurial scene since back in the 80s even, but in the recent times, perhaps 10 years back, and with the new concept of accelerators and VCs, or not new concept, but at least in the region, and we have been really strong at that point since the beginnings. The Jordanian ecosystem has been far. It's a great place to be for any startup to really start their ideas, to pilot their products, and to have access to a good talent base, while also have access to the region, given its position and the dynamics around it. So I will also now perhaps stop and see where you want this conversation to go, and you can direct us.
Right. Thank you very much. Actually, what the startup ecosystem requires is the training facilities where they can nurture themselves, and exemption and government incentives which they can strengthen themselves, and also investment which they are very much inquired for to empower themselves in terms of finance. I would like you to give a floor to both of you to give from starting from the accelerator point of view and incubation facilities and common facilities, if there is any, or which country, which cities, or which
Sami, can we hear you? We cannot hear you.
Jordan, what will be the how to say exclusivities which they will be entertained by the Jordanian ecosystem? I would like you to touch on these how to say regards, and let's see where the discussion goes.
Okay.
Right.
Shall I start?
Sure, please.
Yani, as I mentioned earlier, the Jordanian startups ecosystem is very vibrant. According to a map for the ecosystem that was, I think, and it's updated recently. There are more than 300 players in the ecosystem in Jordan, including accelerators, incubators, support organizations, and it's happening in most of the universities. Actually, it's including most of the universities. Now we also have a curriculum related to entrepreneurship in the schools by Injaz, which is also giving a lot of education within the curriculum to the young generation before even going to the universities to learn more about entrepreneurship and setting their mind accordingly. So this is one thing, and we can see a lot of universities also started to introduce entrepreneurship in the universities as well. The Ict Association of Jordan in Taj, which I'm representing here, was founded 21 years ago to grow this sector in general, the ICT sector in general, and of course things evolve all the time. And of course, disruption now is becoming a necessity. So we have been encouraging disruption and innovation by all means, whether within the large organizations or large IT companies, medium, small, and even newly established startups. We have so far around 376 startups, in addition to around 300 players within the ecosystem, as I mentioned. And these startups actually, they are fragmented, or they are distributed to around 21 or 22 verticals and sub-verticals. Most of them, they work in around 26% in e-commerce, 13% in education technology, fintech 6%, health tech 6%, and the others, like including entertainment, social media. So there is a map now, which I will be happy to share through the chat once I finish the talk, that I encourage everyone to look at and see who the startups in Jordan and which verticals and which sub-verticals they are working on. I think this will be helpful and will give you a great idea. Also, recently, actually a few months ago, the government of Jordan approved a new entrepreneurship policy, which encourages or which motivates startups in terms of, as mentioned, in all aspects, including things related to taxes, customs, social security, things like that, which is a great thing. This has been done between all the players within the ecosystem, including Beyond Capital and many others, to really advocate for better incentives for the startups, and we already have that now. I will leave it till here for now, so I can leave something for Tamer to talk about, but we still have more to tell.
Yeah, thank you, Nidal. I think you covered most of it. I'll perhaps just also go back to what we do at Beyond Capital. So part of our existence is to support the establishment of new innovative financial solutions that would eventually support and invest into startups and SMEs. We've actually mapped the investment landscape, which hopefully we'll publish soon. I wish I can share the link now. And back in 2007, we've had less than 10 players in Jordan. And today we have over 25, I guess. that is a very, a very promising step towards companies finding the right capital that could potentially support them and believe in them to build their next big thing. However, what's more important is Jordan being on the map of regional and global investors. And that has been proven recently with a few exits, with a few big rounds of investments to companies that have perhaps, are not startups anymore, however, have really matured and flourished being out of Jordan. So today we do have a proper, at least, I don't want to say the ecosystem, but it's on its way to becoming really a good place to be in all aspects. However, it's a long process. We do have many supporters, as Nidal said, 300 players. We have a few accelerators. We have, as I said, multiple funds that are extending capital in Jordan. We've perhaps the only thing that Nidal didn't mention about Jordan as a whole was the newly established 4 years ago now, ISSF, which is the Innovative Startups and SMEs Fund, which is a $100 million fund to support the establishment of funds to attract capital into the country and to co-invest with investors, with qualified investors into startups. And that was something that has been done on a national level, which really encouraged and supported that segment to flourish. So there are many parts where the ecosystem or the startup can go through from its earlier days, since the universities, up to the big rounds of Series A and B and C and so on. Over to you.
If I may add, because Sami mentioned about the education. One of the pillars that Intaj, or Ict Association of Jordan, Intaj, by the way, is the abbreviation of the Ict Association of Jordan, so that's why I keep saying Intaj. One of the major 6 pillars that we focus on is human capital. And maybe Sami, you mentioned that, or you asked me about this. It's very important to ensure that the gap between the academia and the private sector is as narrow as possible, especially in the technology domain, because technology evolves rapidly. So we have at Intaj and with other players working closely with the universities to ensure that the curriculum, even I'm talking about technology specifically and other skills, that the curriculum is updated all the time. And also the faculty members are equipped with all the education they need to deliver the curriculum, the updated curriculum. So this is something that Intaj has been working with the Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship, and other players. Now we have a new association called Digital Skills Association. Also, this is specialized to ensure the gap is as narrow as possible. And we have the talents that we can provide for the startups to deliver and to innovate. There are a lot of initiatives in this domain. And I agree with you, this is a major thing, to be honest, for startups, whether who are in Jordan or who are interested to come to Jordan. If I want to go back to the incentives for the IT companies in general, including startups, we have great incentives, including sales tax, which is 0% instead of 16%, income tax on certain activities, especially on technology, from 20% reduced to 5%, 0% customs, 0% export tax as well. So we have great incentives for the companies in the IT sector, including startups. This is really making Jordan a great digital hub due to these incentives and also the support organizations that are available, in addition to the government support and especially the royal support in Jordan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tamer and Mr. Nidal. Actually, one of the ICYF role is to introduce one ecosystem to another. for OIC member states startups to learn one to another or to interact one to another. This is what we are trying to do with this startup ecosystem talks. Actually, today we will be having another guest, Mr. Nidal Kanadilo, which we were announced earlier in our posters. Due to his personal reasons, he cannot able to be with us in this program. And also, what as an ICYF, what we believe, as I mentioned earlier in our talks, Mr. Nidal and Mr. Tamer, Islamic countries, youth is the future of our nations, and the gap between developed nations and our nations will be only closed with the technologies which our youth are creating with it in a disruptive manner. This is why we are investing in startups and youth. This is the only way which we can make the challenge, take the challenge, and we will overcome what we are lacking behind. That's why we are really hoping for our youth, and we believe in them, and we believe that they will do if we give them a guidance, if we nurture them, if we train them well, and if we provide facilities for them. That's why we believe in youth, and we are facilitating all what we can for them to succeed. I have another topic which I would like you to have your comment. What are the incorporation and commercialization level of the startups in Jordan? Can you elaborate on this subject a little more? Can you talk about some unicorns or large scale of startups in Jordan?
Tamer, since you're specialized in the VCs, I leave this to you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I wish we can mention a few unicorns. However, we've had a few successes and a few exits, and the definition of success, I mean, would vary depending on what we define it today. But at least, since I think 10 years back, we started with the first big exit to Yahoo.com, which was Maktoob, which was a Jordanian success story that actually played a huge role in pushing this sector forward and putting all that attention on it. At a time where this sector wasn't the focus, at least in Jordan, this really motivated all of us in Jordan and the youth specifically to run and go on to developing their own startups, specifically those that worked with this company. And that we always like to calculate actually at Beyond Capital, and the multiplier of that kind of business exiting with the previous employees going on establishing businesses, with them becoming investors. And that was through actually those same entrepreneurs and co-invested and co-created Souq.com, which was sold to Amazon a couple of years back, almost a unicorn. So we're happy about that. We've also had a gaming company that exited this year or last year with almost $250 million, sorry. And we have multiple exits. Perhaps if I missed any, Nidal, please jump in. We've had some smaller exits here and there in multiple sectors, sub 100 million, sub 50 million deals. But what is more interesting are the companies that are coming up, because we have, in the past 10 years, we really waited for one company at a time to hear such exit stories. And this year alone, we've heard multiple exits, smaller ones at least. Things are moving. Entrepreneurs are growing rapidly. As I said, being in Jordan gave them that part of advantage, one in motivation and the kickstart from the early success stories, and two from the support that they're getting around them, and most importantly, the access to the market that they have. As I said, being in Jordan, you have, at least our Arabic accent is neutral, almost in the region. the talent is really good. The education is relatively very well, and graduates, at least in the ICT sector as well, great talent. So we're lucky to have that. And Jordan yet is a small market, and you wouldn't really hear of a unicorn or a great success story that has started and stayed in Jordan. And those, the Jordanian entrepreneurs' mentality is interesting as well, that we have to sell abroad, we have to think globally from day one, which is what all of this industry is all about. So yeah, I think those are kinds of the successes. At least I don't know, Nidal, if
we have also recently POS Rocket, which was also acquired by Foodex. Yes, and many others. I agree with you. From the recent study that we did at Intaj, the startup map, it includes more information that I can share with you. We have around 51% of the 376 startups that I mentioned are in the growth stage. We have around 13% in the early growth, 23% MVP, 7% pre-MVP, and 5% prototype. So we have a lot of pipeline in terms of startups. We can, as Tamer mentioned, the ISSF, the Innovative Startups and SMEs Fund, which is $100 million fund. I consider it as the mother of the fund, the fund of funds and the mother of funds in Jordan, is really doing a great job in terms of working to build the pipeline, more pipeline of more startups through funding more accelerators and more incubators in Jordan, whether in AI, whether in cybersecurity, whether in fintech and others, edtech and other verticals. So, and also another interesting information which I forgot to mention, according to the World Economic Forum, I think 27% of the founding startups, or the startups, the founding startups in the Arab world, they are Jordanians, where Jordan is 3% in terms of population, according to the Arab world. But I love what you just mentioned, Sami, about the Islamic world, which is a huge world. We're talking about almost 1 billion plus, if not more, people. And I think it's important to create collaboration between these markets for the startups, whether from Turkey, from Pakistan, from Indonesia, from all over the Muslim world, because if we manage to cross the borders and eliminate these borders, the chance for the Jordanian startups as well as other Muslim country startups will be higher to succeed, especially in smaller markets like Jordan. And I love your initiative, and I think we can build on today's meeting for later on with your esteemed organization to the benefit of the startups in all the Islamic world, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm coming to again Mr. Taner's area. What type of investments are how to say catchy in Jordan startups? I mean, in what startups investors are looking into invest in Jordan? And another one also, which is the challenge for all countries. We have an issue of traditional investment, and traditional investors are not having much knowledge and also not having training, I can say, on startup investment. What is the level of the investment, new generation investment in Jordan, and what is the perception of the traditional investors on startup ecosystem? Can you elaborate a bit of this kind, Mr. Taner?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Actually, this is very interesting and very important. And we actually are working on that specifically, on converting those traditional investors for them to understand what the startup world is like and how investment in the startup world sometimes doesn't make sense, perhaps. I mean, we established an angel investment network a couple of years back, and we have training programs tied to it. And perhaps, talking about investors, we've had multiple attempts at creating angel investment groups in Jordan, and it has been very difficult. I mean, for the past 10 years to have a group of traditional investors make investments into those startups, especially that the risks are super high and the valuations don't make sense at early stages. You know, you're not valuing the real business. You're not based on assets or anything of that sort. We're basing it on a dream that might or might not succeed, and the odds are usually against you. We've, you know, a lot of investors tried to come into this and, you know, believe, at least most of them lost their money because of the lack of knowledge in this industry. I invest in 2-3 companies and I expect them to succeed doesn't really make sense. The best VCs, the best investors in the world lose most of the times, and, you know, bank on those who are, you know, the few winners that we all are after. But any ecosystem to succeed, there has to be the first believers and your circle around you, which for anyone, I would think, you know, you would know people with money. At least those should have ideas or should have understanding of how to invest into a startup, because a bad investor or an investor that does not understand will just ruin your business. If an investor pushes you to become sustainable from the start, and where are my profits, where is the dividends, let's just distribute, this is not making sense. This is not the technology play, right? Although sustainability is very important and people should look at it from day one, but they should never think of getting money outside of the company, for example, versus a traditional investor that is expecting you know, to have returns similar to investing in an apartment where it gets rent every year, which doesn't happen. This is actually, the whole region has really, you know, gone through a leap in that sense. And what we have been noticing as well is that the ecosystem has been around for a while for those high net worth individuals or business owners to have the second and the third generation step in. And those understand this. Those have lived it from the start. They know what startups are about. They've used the products of those startups all of their lives, so they understand it very well. So what we're seeing is a second generation investor coming in and understanding this. And this is, I think, happening all around where ecosystems have been around for a while. So yeah, I think we're happy about that. As for the first question of the focus of investors, I think of the investments, perhaps Nidal might have more information about the metrics on the numbers of companies within each industry. But for the investors themselves, they are earlier stage investors generally in Jordan. Because as I said before, you're early at first, you need that funding, you want to prove yourself, you want to grow to other markets when you become visible to those big investors that could come in later on. So we have all the way from pre-seed, seed, early stage growth funds, Series A, B maximum, but you know, we barely touch the B. So up to perhaps Series A, and then you know, the world is your investment pool rather than Jordan. So yeah, I think I'm not sure if Nidal, you have any numbers that would support which sector actually received more funding.
Actually, we don't have exactly, but we can see that gaming is becoming something really it's a very strong subsector in Jordan, and received a lot of like Tamatim and Jawakir. Of course, definitely e-commerce, we see a lot of in education, technology also, and fintech. So these are the strongest. I think we have fintech, edtech, e-commerce, gaming in Jordan, who have been receiving funds. Also, Tamer, he elaborated a lot, but I think it's important to recognize what Beyond Capital has been doing in partnership with the ISSF regarding the angel investors network. because he talked about the converting the traditional investors, and he's making them angels. And I think we see a lot of great success stories in a very short time. I totally agree with him that there is a good leap in what's happening in Jordan in this regard. Another thing which is very important, and to be honest, recently, because as Tamer mentioned, there has been rapid evolvence in startups and supporting startups. I think Jordan, during the past few years, has been enjoying a collaborative efforts between the ecosystem players. For example, we have something called JCORE, which is an alliance of around 9 important entities who work in the startups entrepreneurship system. One of them is Intaj, and other Beyond Capital, many other 7 entities. We meet every month to see how we can really leverage on each other's efforts and see how we can help the startups. We have a good support by the Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship. For example, they funded a few startups to go to Leap, which is one of the Leap started yesterday, I think, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So now we have a good number of startups exhibiting in Leap, and this is funded by the government. And we see a lot of support happening from different funds and from even some government entities for the startups. And also, I have to confess that the telecom operators in Jordan are really very great supporters for the startups. They have incubators in whether for Zain, they have Zinc, Orange, they have Big, and Omnia or Battleco, they have the Tank. So they are really contributing a lot to the ecosystem. Earlier you asked about the geographical location. We have to admit that most of the activities are happening in Amman, in the capital city. You know, Jordan is a small country. It's about 10 million people, but we have almost half the population is in Amman. So most of the activities is in the capital city. However, we see now, recently, actually, the last couple of years, we see some more distribution, especially in the northern part of Jordan, like Irbid, a little bit in Aqaba in the south. But we still need to do more efforts to cover all the kingdom in this regard. There are around 200 knowledge stations owned by the Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship around the kingdom. And these knowledge stations, they were created maybe more than 20 years ago. At that time, you know, their main duty was to build the capacity of the people in these in different governorates, digital skills, ICDL stuff. And now we see a plan to convert maybe a good number of these knowledge stations to be incubators for startups in the region. We see more efforts done in different sectors, because one of the pillars that Intaj is focusing on is promoting digital transformation. So when we talk about promoting digital transformation, this comes from the concept of IT is an enabler for all other sectors. For example, we see a good emergence of agri-tech. So technology in agriculture, technology in tourism as well. And Jordan, you know, is a very good touristic country. I believe Jordan is an open museum, and we have all what it takes. So we need to really utilize technology to support tourism, and we see some great efforts happening in this regard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nidal. As you mentioned, that human capital is the asset. They are, if there is a skill, this asset is considered. This asset is considered as a capital. What I can say is that, like what I have spoken with you before when we have a discussion, we have a robotic process automation, how to say, training, as well as developer camps training, which we are conducting here for the youth, also in the all the IC geography. Is there any other initiative rather than startup ecosystem, only for nurturing and training for the capacities and capabilities of the individual, for to supply the needs of the startup ecosystem? Is there anything which you are conducting within a short term, having the how to say, considerable skill to serve as freelancer, as part-timer for the ecosystem? Can you elaborate some on this regard?
Sure. We have a very positive competition actually between the universities in Jordan, public universities and private universities, to create very effective and impactful innovation centers within the universities. These innovation centers within the universities, they are offering trainings and competition between the students. Now, Intaj, our association, is working closely with these universities to ensure that the graduation projects related to ICT is innovative. These projects are innovative and up to the they supply the demand of the private sector. So we don't want to see, for example, very traditional graduation project for an IT graduate. We are working closely. We're trying to supply them with more insights. We're engaging the private sector in the universities to go to these universities from the companies and also the startups. They go to the students and talk to them within the university about what's the private sector is expecting and what to expect in regard to the real life, and also give them more insights. Now, entrepreneurship, and Tamer maybe agree with me, is becoming a buzzword in Jordan. So sometimes it's but we have to be sometimes careful about this. I mean, we don't want also all the citizens to be entrepreneurs or startups. Sometimes it's an extra, we exaggerate in it, but I think this is a good and healthy thing. Yes, there are a lot of initiatives. As I mentioned, we have a program called YTJ, Youth Technology and Jobs, with the Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship. This program is heavily funded actually for reskilling, upskilling the youth and the talents according to the market needs. We also believe that, as mentioned, crossing the borders is very important, and there is a big support from Intaj, from Beyond Capital, from the government in this regard.
Actually, if I may add, Sami.
Please do.
Yeah, if talking about those players, and I guess if you look at any ecosystem and see that the public sector, the private sector, all organizations want in and understand that that entrepreneurship and that startups are the future and they will shape the future whether we like it or not, and you see them trying to jump in. This is where I believe, although as Nidal said, we don't want everyone to become entrepreneur, but this is when you see that everyone understands the importance of it, and that if we do not join them, we will lose. No matter how big, how small, how powerful we are today, things will change. And as we have been seeing all around the world, and this has just been being accelerated today. Actually, and I would assume that most of the attendees or people are interested here are startups themselves, and maybe for that reason, and thanks a lot for the efforts of getting making the world a smaller place in terms of knowledge about each other's ecosystems. Always those entrepreneurs, what could happen here in this platform are potential collaborations in the future. And probably most of you or some of you come from bigger countries where you can really reach a unicorn level or reach hundreds of millions of users within the same market. But an entrepreneur's dreams usually don't stop there, and develop those cross-country, those collaborations earlier on, try to reach people all around the world. And I think this is a great platform for them to learn and to establish connections with others earlier on, so that when the time is right, or you never know where the opportunity comes from, to have access to those markets quickly, easily, and without any friction. Jordanian entrepreneurs have been really good at that, and this is why they were successful, because perhaps we were pressured to get out of the country quickly, to sell abroad, to think outside the Jordanian demand. And while having the disadvantage of a small market, we have the advantage of that kind of thinking, which I encourage those who are in bigger markets not to fall into that trap, because at one point you will need to learn about others. You will need to leave. Do it earlier on so that you don't miss the boat on anything.
I would like actually to elaborate more about in terms of, like, not to elaborate, or to give an example. Actually, I just remembered, like Abwab, Tamer. Abwab is an EdTech company. They recently acquired a startup in Pakistan, which is very interesting and and I think I really loved that thing, because this is a start, as you mentioned. This is what we like to see. We like to see collaboration between all the countries in this region. Also, we encourage, due to the many incentives that we have, we encourage all startups from all over the Muslim world to, if they want to penetrate the region, especially the Arab world, like Iraq, like GCC and others, they can do it through partnering with Jordanian startups, because, as mentioned, the talents are here and available, and the geographical location is really amazing for these countries. I believe we have huge opportunities in the Muslim world, because most of the countries in the Muslim world are still need development. So there are a lot of gaps that need to be filled, which means a lot of opportunities for growth of many startups to solve these problems. And startups usually come to solve problems. So we have more problems than the first world countries, whereby it's a great opportunity for the entrepreneurs and startups in this part of the world.
Right. Thank you.
We're also lucky to have problems then.
Exactly.
No,
we would like to turn problems to opportunities.
Right. Actually, when I talked to the young entrepreneurs, I was telling them that we have to understand you. We have to know what you want. We have to be within your thought. They said, no, you can't be. You shouldn't be. They said that while you were a child, you were always conflicting with your father. We were the one who were challenging. You were the one who were challenging with your sisters. Now we are the one who are challenging with you. You shouldn't be with us. You just facilitate us. You just give us a direction. You just give us a way. You just give us some, how to say, trainings and facilities. Actually, that's what we are trying to do as an Icyf Ybh. We would like to interact each country's ecosystem one to another, to know each other's facts and also opportunities. Let's say Jordanian ecosystem, we have one Jordanian successful, one of the startup which attended our summit, and which we make them join with the Azerbaijani startup ecosystem, and also when he was here for some other engagement, and we make them a partnership with some Turkish entrepreneurs here, which he can be a startup there, which he's a successful startup. At the same time, he can, how to say, branch its facilities within those countries while he is operating in Jordan. That's why we are conducting this kind of programs to understand one to another. We started with Pakistan, now we are with Jordan, and following up with Lebanon, Algeria, maybe Malaysia, and some others. Another one also, I would like to, we are coming near to the end. I would like to ask to Mr. Tamer as well as Mr. Nidal, why investors should come to Jordan and invest on Jordanian startups? What is the attraction?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Sami. I mean, having said all of this and the ecosystem, really, just put that aside. This means nothing. What really means something is the Jordanian entrepreneur, and perhaps we touched upon it in multiple things that we've said. And being in a country where the majority is youth, where unemployment is skyrocketing, where really the need to innovate and do things differently is a must. We have a good pool of talent. Jordan was built on entrepreneurial activities, even before technology or the technology that we know today. We have and built on innovation, really, and high technology, deep technology learnings from pharmaceuticals in the past to today's, technology world. And that entrepreneurial drive and spirit with the right environment could really achieve a lot. As I said, the Jordanian entrepreneur is a global entrepreneur from day one, at least the ones that are successful and the ones that know what they're doing, really. And they have access to great teams, to great talent around them, to an ecosystem that is collaborative to a great extent, and to a country that is well entrenched and have good relationships within the region where they really want to operate it. Being in Jordan, and perhaps also Nidal can add to that, not only for investors to invest in Jordanian companies, but to invest in Jordanian funds, and to invest and to come in and set up shop in Jordan for many, many other reasons, for at least the talent that we're talking about. We have many success stories, and I think Nidal can touch on that, on global companies that come in and hire great talents from Jordan. And saying all this, and given and even the funds that and the funds in the region, actually 5 years ago, I think 50% of all funds in the region has had Jordanians, whether as partners or as high positions in them. And you still look at the ecosystem today, you look at the biggest funds, you see Jordanians everywhere, because we have really learned that from the early days and from the beginnings. So identifying the right people on the ground in Jordan and helping them go out. If you're successful in a small country like Jordan, if you can prove that you are globally relevant, I think that would say a lot about the entrepreneur and about the environment around him. That being said, we still need way more support, way more investments, way more entrepreneurs to pick up their game and move on quicker. We always want that, of course. We will never reach that point where we say we're done, but it is a good place to really enter that region, especially the GCC and the Levant region, which are very close, very intertwined, and Jordan sits right in the middle.
Thank you.
I would also add to what Tamer just mentioned. Now, maybe during the past few years, we were not as organized as we are now. Now we are becoming, even as an ecosystem, more organized and more collaborative. I'm talking about the Jordanian players within the ecosystem. And this month, actually, we'll witness the launch of the deal flow of startups portal, which we will be happy to share it with you once we're done with that. This deal flow will include the details of the Jordanian startups, the details of the Jordanian ecosystem players, the details of the support organizations, and anyone from abroad can get there and see the details of the startups, which stage they are, and Series A, Series B, pre-seed, etc. So this thing is very important. Maybe we were not doing that in the past few years, but now things are more solid in terms of the ecosystem of startups in Jordan. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the entrepreneurship policy is really a great step, and it's a milestone that will make the life of investors easier when they want to see startups that would be appealing for them. Yes, this is why I think international investors should look at Jordan. A lot of great players, you can see royal support actually for the startups ecosystem, not just the government. And as Tamer mentioned, and the caliber of talents, whether as founders of startups or the employees who work with the startups, they are amazing. I think we need more efforts in Jordan to promote these startups. I think we were not doing as good as we are doing right now, especially the past couple of years, in promoting startups and putting things in the right perspective.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
100%. 100%.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I would like to take your final comments, your advices, and your experience which you have gone through in this ecosystem. What is your advices? What is your suggestions? What is your inspiring, motivational wordings for the startups? I would like to have your comments for them to take your advice and as a guidance to find their right path. I would like to start with Mr. Tamer. As a final words, what is your words for the startups?
Yeah, I always like those words of encouragement when I like to state the facts first. You are in a great journey that you will learn from a lot. However, you will face huge issues, huge challenges. The odds are against you. Everyone is against you. It's very lonely, and you will fall many, many, many times. And the only thing that should keep you forward is your dream, that North Star that you're after. Always listen to the market, not only to be receptive to advice, but also to listen to your customers, to your stakeholders around you. Try as much as possible to listen, don't deviate, stick to your mission until you're proven wrong. When you're proven wrong, just move on very quickly. This is the best educational course and the most expensive one you will ever have. So try to enjoy it at least. The probability is against you. So good luck.
Thank you. Mr. Nidal?
Yes, actually, Tamer said it all, but I would like to add one thing, which is an advice for all the startups. If you are a technical person with a great idea, don't forget to partner with a business person or with a person who have business skills, and vice versa. And if you have a great idea and have you are a business person, please do find a good partner or a co-founder with technical skills. You cannot do it alone. That's my main advice, and it's from an experience, and I see it a lot all over, actually, not just in Jordan, all over the world. So this is a technical advice. It's not an inspirational advice as Tamer's. So I think we complement the advices now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, today is the first day of the holy month, Rahmah, Rajab, first day. And we were with Mr. Nidal Bitar, CEO of the Information and Communication Technology Association of Jordan, as well as Mr. Tamer Salah, Managing Director of the Beyond Capital. We are very thankful for your time and for your participation, for your inputs. And thank you on behalf of all the OIC youth And on behalf of Icyf and on behalf of my president, Mr. Taha Ayhan, thank you very much for your time and for your contribution. Inshallah, we will be in touch with you. Mr. Nidal, maybe you can give audience about your program in Dubai Expo, which we have received your email.
Yes.
Maybe some of the startups may want to hear a bit of your program in Expo. And after giving your announcement, and I would like to conclude our session, inshallah. And may Allah give barakah all what you do as an effort for the youth of the Islamic Ummah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sami. I just shared the link of JOYTED, the Jordan Innovation, Tech and Entrepreneurship in Dubai. It's going to be on the 21st of February, this month. The idea behind it is really to support the startups and the IT companies in Jordan to find or to network with potential investors, potential buyers, and potential partners. I think it will be a great opportunity for anyone who can make it to Dubai, especially during the Expo, to come and learn more about the IT and entrepreneurship sector in Jordan, and to meet a lot of Jordanian companies and startups. All details are in the website.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. We'll be in touch. We will be inshallah meeting you in person, inshallah. We'll come and visit Jordan to benefit from you more, inshallah. Thank you very much. And have a good day, all audience. And we were with Mr. Nidal and Mr. Tamer, and we are closing our Jordanian startup ecosystem session with the dua of العصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام عليكم.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.